Good afternoon. My name is Tony Brennan, and I'm going to speak to you today about our paper called Assessing Toll Road Demand in New Zealand. There's three of us who put this paper together. Neil Douglas and Don Wignall will join us in this presentation. I'll be followed by Neil, and then we'll have Don, and I'll come back again and summarise at the end. So first of all, myself here, you can see the Auckland Harbour Bridge and the Sky Tower in the background. The Auckland Harbour Bridge was opened in 1959. It was a 4-lane bridge. The bridge, when it was opened, reduced the journey times from people from the North Shore to the central Auckland from 45 minutes to 15 minutes. So it was a significant improvement. The original toll was 2 shillings and 6pence, or nominally in today's terms 25 cents, and subsequently it was reduced after 15 months to 2 shillings or 20 cents after 15 months operation. These things in real terms are sort of around the $6 mark. The tolling was actually manual, and there were tolling booths at the northern end of the bridge, and tolling booths operated for both northbound and southbound. After about 10 years, they realised the 4-lane bridge, even though it is being tolled, was inducing a lot of traffic, and so it was decided to build the clip-ons, which were essentially 2-lane box girders added to each side of the bridge. Tolls were discontinued in March 1984, and currently the daily traffic volumes operate around about 170,000 vehicles per day. Auckland Harbour Bridge is no longer a toll road. As I said, it was discontinued, but there have been 3 other toll roads built in New Zealand. We've got the Auckland Northern Gateway, which is sort of north of Auckland, a place we often refer to as Puhoi, and then down in the Bay of Plenty, a place called Tauranga. We have both the Tauranga Eastern Link motorway and the Takatimu Drive, which is not that far actually from the Eastern Link Road. Again, we have a situation here where motorcyclists and cars are paying differing amounts throughout the journey, but on one hand, at Takatimu, it's about $1.90, and whereas the other 2 roads, it's $2.10 and $2.40 respectively, and then the trucks are essentially double that. We've also done some work here in terms of benchmarking New Zealand tolls with Australia, UK, USA, and Canada. And we use the 2020 datum there. We've plotted the 3 toll roads that currently exist versus other toll roads from various countries. We've also put in the hypothetical real equivalent of the Auckland Harbour Bridge, and that's that spot there. And we've also done a number of investigations around the country in terms of potential toll roads, and in particular the northern corridor of Wellington. There's a motorway known as the Transmission Gully Motorway that's been looked at, and nominally a toll of $6.50 was what was decided if that was to go ahead. You'll see in terms of this benchmarking exercise, the roads that have really made it in New Zealand as actual toll roads tend to be on the lower side of the tolls that are charged.
Thanks, Tony. Now, for those who don't know, Tony played representative cricket for New Zealand and once bowled to Dennis Lillee. Better than batting against him, I bet. Now, as you can see from this slide, we've got Matt and Brendan in the background, planning ATRF 2021. Pity we're not there, and I've got the tropical t-shirt on. And thanks to Tony, we got the job. Tony got us to analyse some toll data and also make some predictions for a new toll road, which Don will talk about. So, analysis, yes. Two sorts of analysis. One was to look at the traffic data and the other one was to look at the registration data. That's later. Now, one of the aspects is ramp up. Important in forecasting, but we couldn't find much evidence, so we had a look at the data. Now, this shows the Northern Gateway, and as you can see, not much evidence of ramp up. It's a straight line upwards to the right, pretty linear, with some variations around it reflecting the road's holiday function. This slide shows revenue, and there was ramp up for revenue, which is due to, I'd put it down to technical glitches at the beginning, not being able to spot the traffic, setting up the photographs, improving the technology, etc. And as you can see, it started with percent non-payers, that's people who managed to go through without paying and then not being tracked down, at around about 8%. Fell to around about 2%, stabilised there, and has gone up to 3%, but that may be because these are very late payers and haven't paid yet, because that's 2017. Now, one of the bunch of people who most dislike paying tolls are the motorcyclists, and they organised a protest in 2015 about the imposition of tolls on the Tauranga roads, and here we see a bunch of them. Now, they reported in the paper, and one of their problems was that they pay where the cyclists don't pay, and the cyclists get all these new cycle tracks and they still don't pay. Tend to side with the motorcyclists here a bit. Now, half the Takimu drivers didn't pay at the outset, so that may be the ramp up issue again, but 20% still don't pay. Now, this isn't just a New Zealand phenomenon. There's been protests in the UK, in the Tyne Tunnel, the Auckland Bridge and the Harbour Bridge. And for the Harbour Bridge, the protests, which went on from 5 to 8 years, I think, ultimately led to the toll being removed. Now, this slide shows the frequency of vehicles using the toll road. On the left-hand side, it's unweighted. Therefore, a vehicle that's spotted going over 250 times is still just one vehicle, and therefore it appears once in the histogram in the 250 category. And likewise, one car that uses it once appears in the 0 to 5 category. So you can see that the histogram is very steep, because 70% of the Northern Gateway only ever use the toll road 0 to 5 times, whereas in terms of after weighting it by the number of times they use it, you can see that the curve is much flatter, because the 250 use group is much more reflective because it is multiplied by the number, i.e. a number over 250. Toll road trips and gross revenue. What I did was multiply the trips by the toll as advertised, so it includes GST and it assumes full compliance, and that gives the revenue on the right hand side. On the left hand side, you can see there's a difference between the Northern Gateway and the Tauranga tolls, because in Tauranga there's more heavy commercial vehicle use, around 17%, double that on the Northern Gateway, which reflects the different type of users using the roads. Now, in terms of revenue, multiplying the tolls for HCVs by 2, because it's twice that of the LCV toll, results in a greater share for HCVs. It increases it to 34%, doubles it, and similarly for the Northern Gateway, it goes from 8 to 15%. So the other aspect of the analysis was to look at the registrations data, and I need to thank Nicola Wills here, who did a lot of the analysis for us, providing the process data. It was all anonymatized, so we didn't know the names, etc. And she provided the file with all the records in it. Most of people can spell Auckland, but quite a few couldn't. So my job was to go through the people who couldn't spell Auckland right, or put different names for it, and all around the world to put them into zones. You can see there's 1,900 overseas. Quite a few of those were Australians, so I had to go through all the towns that they put down and work out whether Melbourne was in Australia or in America. I worked out that it was in Australia. So we did that, and we can get this pie chart here. So in total, 296,400 live toll accounts, of which Auckland has 50%. That's got the Northern Gateway, of course, and Auckland is the most populous of all the regions. The other ones where there's quite a lot of toll use is the Bay of Plenty, not surprising because that's where the two Tauranga toll roads are. Northland, where the Northern Gateway goes to, has 11%, and the Waikato, which is close to the Tauranga toll road, has 8%. So we used the registration data to fit this gravity model. All hail Isaac Newton. I think most of you will know what a gravity model, so I'm not going to spend any time explaining it, but the basic principle is that the influence declines rapidly in terms of distance. So these dots on the graph are the regions, and they are put twice because I split the data according to whether the Tauranga toll roads were there or not, which was in 2015. You can see that it's a very steep function to start with, and then it's very flat towards the end, and that reflects the nature of the functional form that apparently fits these observations. It fit it quite well, and I got that beta parameter of minus 0.16. So we've used that model to work out how many people might use Transmission Gully and what the revenue might be. So we worked out how far Transmission Gully was from these different regions, and we applied the model, and we came up with a forecast of toll registrations increasing by 62,500, which is a 20% increase, with 2/3 of the new regos in Wellington region, the rest being spread across New Zealand. There was also an additional 400 overseas registrations, possibly a few from Australia. Now, let's move on to Don. Don's from Preston. He likes Preston North End football team like myself. And as you can see from his first slide, we're not just talking about one Don. We've got about 48 Dons, a whole football team plus lots of substitutes.
I'm Don Wignall. I operated the regional traffic model for the work. Saturn represents links and intersections in a lot of detail and is good for describing operational conditions. In the future, Transmission Gully becomes State Highway 1. The Coastal Highway becomes State Highway 59. The start of Transmission Gully on the left, which is where tolling would begin. Travelling south on a steep upgrade, 8% or so. This is at the high point of the route, 260 metres. The vertical profile of the route, Transmission Gully in red, Coastal Highway in blue. State Highway 58, connecting the Hutt Valley with Porirua, divides the northern and southern sections of the Transmission Gully. A second intermediate junction leading to eastern Porirua. The third intermediate junction connecting to central Porirua. The connection with State Highway 1 at Lyndon, where heading south, 2 lanes from Transmission Gully and 2 lanes from Porirua merge into 2 lanes through the Tower intersection. Diversion and revenue were estimated by representing the effect of tolls as time penalties on selected links. 2 scenarios were considered. The first, where the coast road remained unaltered. The second, where it was subject to traffic calming. As well as background scenarios with and without TG, 3 main pricing strategies were tested, namely $2, $3 and $4 light vehicle toll, and a $4, $6 and $8 heavy vehicle toll, all with and without coast road treatment. The best results are with the coast road slowed down, which diverted between 6 and 9% of traffic from the northern section of TG. The southern section diversion was higher at between 36 and 43%. A $3 light and $6 heavy tolling strategy would generate $12 million, a quarter higher than that forecast by the gravity model.
In brief summary, New Zealand has 3 toll roads with fairly low tolls. There's very little evidence of vehicle ramp up, but there is some evidence of early month revenue ramp due to non-payment. The data from NZTA highlights an aversion for motorcyclists paying a toll, and with 1 in 5 Tauranga linked motorcyclists not paying. The toll aversion is not limited to New Zealand. This occurs in the UK, and probably due to data being in the private company hands, it's very rare to get opportunities to see who really are users of toll roads. NZTA's registration and usage database has enabled the frequency of use and the geographic distribution of toll roads to be established. We've put together a gravity model, and this is compared to conventional toll modelling, which was represented by time penalties. And these 2 approaches were tested for transmission gully. Revenue was forecast to be about 3/4 of that of conventional model for similar tolls of $3 and for light commercial vehicles and $6 for heavy commercial vehicles. Compared to the Auckland Harbour Bridge, a revenue of 12 million amounts to just about 3% of the 300 million. Seems to be consistent with the low levels of values of time that cost-benefit analysis using the NZTA manual suggests. And on a positive note, the toll system introduced in 2009 has been in operation for over a decade, garnered and has registrations nationwide, even though the toll roads are in the Upper North Island, and have improved over a decade. It still remains a possibility that tolls can fund transport infrastructure as we think about the increasingly busy roads that exist